Okay, it is. We're live right now. Hello, Baba Hekima.
Hey, brother, how you be?
Okay, very good, very good. This is Brother Troy in Dallas, and welcome to our weekly broadcast here. We're going to try and do some current economic news updates as it relates to us leading us and our organization. And I have Baba Hekima with me. Let's see here. And before we get started in this particular episode, because today is the 6th of January 2017,
Okay.
I just want to ask you one question here, Baba Hekima. Can you tell us a little bit more about, not only your background, but, how ULU came to be?
Well, ULU, of course, is Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative. And from the beginning, it was a group effort. And in the way of my background, my personal history or story, to say, just uh, however you say it, um, I'm a child of the 60s. Uh, I was born in 1944. In 1962, after graduating from high school, I went to school in Durham, North Carolina. I'm originally from Charlotte, but that was the height of the sit-in movement. Some people would call, the integrationist period. And so I participated in the sit-ins in North Carolina and was arrested with hundreds of other students demonstrating to open businesses, lunch counters, theaters, again, restaurants. And so that was my first involvement in what we would call the movement or the struggle. And I've continued throughout the years. So I've got more than 50 years of ongoing, consistent, persistent involvement in our people's movement. After I graduated from college in 66, it was the height of the Vietnamese conflict, and I didn't want to go. So I joined VISTA, Volunteers in Service to America, to duck the draft and was sent to Chicago. In Chicago, I got involved with brothers and sisters in the University on the south side of Chicago, and quickly moved from a integrationist, assimilationist kind of point of view to a race first, Pan African, uh, Black nationalist point of view. And so that continued. Um, and so, any number of things that we can go through later on, maybe in terms of my involvement, but it was consistent, persistent. I would also point out the movement to integrate or to infuse African studies on white campuses. I was at graduate school at the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee campus, and was actively involved in the uh, protest for and then the implementation and building of a Black Studies program on that campus. And it was in that time frame that I also became involved in the independence movement, the movement to actually create uh, separate space for African people in the Western Hemisphere. But in terms of ULU, uh, as you know, Brother Troy, there's a lot of discussion about economics, economic
Yes.
empowerment around the country. And so that was the case here in Atlanta as well. And so in 2011, a call went out from a local nonprofit organization for people to come together and wrap their minds around what would be a good economic model for empowerment. And so myself and Brother DJ and others came together and for more than a year, meeting weekly, we kind of hammered out what we thought would be appropriate as a model. And in 2012, we incorporated Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative as a as a C Corp initially, and then we dissolved that, and then 2013, June of 2013, the current model was fashioned as a limited liability company. So it came about as a call from our people, recognizing that yes, we were doing other things in the community. We were dealing with politics, we were dealing with education, we were dealing with police brutality, a number of other things, but we weren't doing anything as it relates to economics, and we really didn't understand the importance of economics in the social life of any community. And so we feel that ULU's greatest contribution is and will be the structuring of a model, of a mechanism, of a tool, an economic tool that can take us to places that we haven't even thought of or attempted since the era of the UNIA ACL under the leadership of Garvey. And so one of the slides on our website, the name of that particular slide is Garvey's Return. And it's 6 points that point out what it takes to build an independent, a separate economy that we own and control. And so that's essentially the backdrop for where we are today. So with UsLiftingUs, currently we continue to perfect the process, the model. And I'll just say, Brother Troy, I really think it's imperative that every brother or sister who is seriously concerned about the welfare of our people add to whatever else that they're doing, add this whole idea and concept of group ownership to their portfolio. Yes, financial literacy is critical. Honing up your entrepreneurial skills are critical. There are a lot of things that we have to do in the economic arena, but we stress the necessity of adding group-owned economics, cooperative economics, or what we call family-centered economics to your economic portfolio. And this particular platform and model will add substantially to everything else that we're doing. But if we don't get this piece right, then everything else that we are doing will simply will duplicate at the level where we are now. We won't be able to make any significant progress because we don't control it. The playing field is controlled by the bankers, by the financiers, by the money markets, by big corporations and governments that are not under our control. And so I just encourage us to think in terms of a new paradigm, a new model. And not only are Africans in America and Africans around the world looking at and fashioning new models. Every people on the planet, the Asians are doing it, Europeans are doing it.
Yes.
Everyone is doing it because predatory capitalism or monopoly capitalism, and as we talked about in a previous podcast, it's under stress. It's never going to be back to the glory days. Those are gone. The world is developing. Some of them are developing independently of the European model. And as they develop, an equilibrium takes place, or the beginning of an equilibrium. You know, obviously when some things go up, another thing goes down. And when those forces that have traditionally been down begin to go up, then those that have been up begin to go down. But anyway, the environment in which ULU exists today is very rich with an awareness that we got to do something different. And so what ULU has come to do, and we've had some success, is to offer a different model, a different way of empowerment that's not, you're in Dallas, whatever you do in Dallas is significant, but what we do globally is more significant. So
Yes.
the ULU model is a global model. It's not just a model that we are going to have an impact on communities in Georgia or Texas. But anyway, I'll stop there and probably went too far.
No, that's great. That's great. And just I want to make a sincere thank you. Just give you a sincere thank you from everyone. I'm a member of ULU, a current member of ULU right now. You know, not only a member annually, but I'm also an investing member. I just want to thank you. It's across the board from everyone, all the members, et cetera, for even creating such a program. Because like you said, in the past, everybody would complain about just the format and how they were being controlled by, you know, the quote unquote powers that be.
Yeah.
But you never had a mechanism, you know, so you can invest your time and money and energy in, so you can not only fight back, but you can build your own, you know, build your own network, you know, build your own economy, so to speak. So now we actually have that. So now that's what we're pushing and trying to get, you know, get out to our people, so to speak. So
I see.
But yeah,
Brother
you know,
Troy, I got a question for you.
Sure.
When we tested this broadcast before, there was the pictures would change depending on who was talking. It's not happening now. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think because I did with a screen share, but you know, I'll fix it back. So it should.
Okay, good enough. Good enough.
Is it back on you now?
No, it's never been on me.
It's never been on you. Hold on. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see now. I see myself. I don't look too good, but I see myself. Yeah, good.
Okay, all right. So I don't know why I did that. So,
but it didn't go back to you when you spoke.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the first time it did, I don't know why it's doing that.
Okay, okay.
We'll see. I'll get it corrected.
Yeah.
So now we'll go off into the question part, and like I said, we're gonna try and keep current economic events. At the very end, I'll ask you some basic questions about what's going on today in the global economy. You know, how it's affecting us, you know, across the board. And that's one of the most exciting things about, you know, UsLiftingUs, right? You can be a member from anywhere. You can be in Sweden, you can be in, you know, Africa, you can be anywhere.
Did you listen to the Thursday night call last night?
Yeah, I listened. Yeah, bits and pieces of it. And I caught the last end. Yeah.
Well, you know, we had two sisters call in that are based in Belize. We had another brother to call in from Ireland.
Yeah, it was two people from Ireland. What did the guy say from Ireland? He said that keep it coming. We're from. That was actually very interesting. But I thought it was two people from Ireland. Was that correct?
Yeah, but only one person called in. But we only have two ULU members in Ireland. We have a good many more in the UK. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, the brothers and sisters that are in Ireland are Senegalese, and they're the ones that we know are primarily there based on business and their careers. And so most of the penetration and support that we've had in Europe has been out of the UK.
Yes, yeah, on an interview you did the other day in the UK. So that was actually very good too. We also posted that on YouTube also. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you what, we have to take advantage of this technology. So going over to this to the first question here. See here, the first question is going to be, I'm going to do a screen share here. So it's as simple as this. Baba Hekima, why is it so important to have income distributed equally in a co-op?
Well, in a co-op, obviously, the idea is that it's group owned, and you want to have as much equality in the process as you can. In ULU, all members have equal power or authority, one member, one vote with elected leadership. However, we have a distribution process system that is not necessarily equal. It's equal in one sense, and in another sense, it's not. In ULU, members and only members, and not the public, can acquire equity units or ownership units in ULU. And at this point, there are no limit to the number of units that a member can acquire. In other words, Brother Troy, you can acquire 10 units. And let's say, as an example, I acquire 1 unit. Now, when ULU businesses are successful, in addition to rewarding the workers with a bonus, a commitment to charity and endowment, there's also a distribution back to our members from the surplus, from the profits, it's normally called. But it's only equal in the sense that each unit gets an equal amount. But if you own 10 units and I own 1 unit, you will get 10 distributions and I'll get 1. So you'll actually get, in terms of what is typically called dividends, but we call a direct return, you will get 10 times more than I will. So it may not be, at least in the ULU model, where there's equal distribution, there's equal power. In other words, if a member, let's say, is a billionaire, it comes in and just gobbles up a lot of units, that person still only has 1 vote only. And if it's a church, if it's a business, if it's an association, that 1 member, 1 vote, and again, elected leadership. Now, in a typical co-op, the co-ops that we're normally used to, let's say a food co-op. In Atlanta, we have a fairly successful food co-op, around 3,000 members. It's a multiracial co-op. It's called 7 Under. Now, what they do there, and in most food co-ops, you'll have what's called a patronage rebate. And it's based on how much business you did with the co-op. So if you only went to a co-op once a year and did some shopping, and somebody else went there every week and did shopping, if there were surplus to be divided, it would be divided based on patronage. So the person who went there every week and spent more money would get more of the return than a person who just went there once a year.
That makes sense.
It's not necessarily correct to anticipate and to think that in a co-op, everybody would receive the same benefit. It's usually measured based on what inputs occurred. So if you contributed to the capital base substantially more than someone else contributed, then it's only fair that you be rewarded based on your contribution to the success to the capital base of the institution.
Very good, very good. And so I'll tell you what, that was a very good answer. Kind of, I guess going back to that question, I'll tell you what, we may have to come back to this question a little later time, because these questions aren't necessarily in order, but I want to go on to the next question, and we may have to.
But hold on a minute, bro. I do think it's important to, for the standpoint of really discussing how it is that ULU intends to aggregate,
yes,
and pool resources from our people. And really, to be fair, we have to answer the question, what's in it for me?
Yes.
And you and other people who are own ownership units in ULU, uh, you may be taken away from your family to invest in a community project. But if it's successful and it provides a surplus, then it's only fair that you receive compensation or a reward so that you can now put monies that you may have taken from your family to put it back in
Yes.
place for your family, hopefully with an increase. And so the reason ULU is so attractive is that many of us have uh, resources, not only money, but skills, and some of us have some mad skills, but resources that are not necessarily uh, generating a return, or if it is, it's minimal. We think that brothers and sisters can receive a greater yield and reward by becoming a member and acquiring units in ULU than would be possible in almost every other uh, there. I'll use this term, and I don't like it, but investment environment. I know in myself and my wife's situation, my wife, career educator, retired from the Atlanta Public Schools, and so she invested in annuities. And the yield is not that great, and we think that we can compete favorably with places where brothers and sisters have a little money parked, and so the question of what's in it for me, we thought when we first sat down in 2011, we needed to answer. We couldn't duck that. Yes, we can empower the community. But yes, if we can empower the community and empower the families and individuals, not only with jobs, not only with contracts and business relationships that would strengthen their businesses, other businesses in the community, strengthen institutions, but if there was the eventuality, the actuality of a direct monetary return, then that would be the best scenario. Because when other people saw that that was occurring, and it was occurring at rates and levels that were respectable, not outrageous, but respectable, then other people and other institutions would be encouraged to also duplicate, that behavior and contribute to the pooling, to the aggregation as well. And so, to some extent, that relates to that first question in terms of direct returns or benefit. ULU, we say, is a benefit-rich process. In addition to jobs, stimulating the economic growth and stability of our local communities, contributing to charity, and also a direct money return. I don't think we've seen such an institution since, again, the Garvey era. Most of the other things that we can point to were not open to the total community. There may have been religious based or association based, but there was not an opportunity for anybody in the community to participate. Now, of course, you have to have a few dollars, but the minimum you got to have is 50. And there are ways for brothers and sisters, if they are so motivated, many of them at least, to build equity in the company. Not always is it dollars that they take out of their pockets, because some brothers and sisters are being rewarded equity credits and can build up to equity units based on barter and trade, skills, or time. And so there are ways other than plopping down dollar bills to build equity in ULU.
Yes, yes. Okay, very good, very good. And I just want to reiterate. I just want to make sure and reiterate the fact that this is not a charity, right?
That's
Okay,
right.
this is not a charity. First of all, ULU, you can invest in ULU, right? And you plan on making a profit. You plan on getting your money back in ULU, right? And we also create jobs. You know, eventually we're gonna create our own banking system.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll provide skills and training. So it's like you said, it's multifaceted, but this is not a charity. So this is long and short term investing.
Yeah.
I mean, but in this case, you're not investing in someone else's corporation. You're investing in your people.
Right.
So that's the biggest difference. You know, putting this brain power and this time and this energy towards your people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but we're going to move on to the next question here real quick. So I'm do screen share. I'm getting used to some of the equipment, so you kind of bear with me here.
Okay.
Okay, next question. And a lot of people ask this question. I don't know why this comes up, but a lot of people have been asking me this question. You know, but who will be your boss in a cooperative?
You will be your boss. The beauty of group ownership, where every worker is also an owner. Now in ULU, not every member is an owner. Or how should I say this? Not every member is a worker, but every worker is a member. In other words, in each of our businesses, the people who staff the business, the workers, must be a member. If they're not a member at the time that they're hired, then the stipulation is there after a orientation period, then they must become a member. If they do not become a member, then they cannot stay in the position. In addition to being a member, every worker must become an owner. Now, what I mean by that is that they must put in equity. They must acquire an equity share in the company. And the minimum is $1,000 in terms of a unit. Some of the other corporations that we study around the world is much greater than that. But if a person cannot afford to purchase a unit, they just simply fill out some paperwork, and incrementally we take a little bit of money out of their salary to secure that unit. And the reason that's important is that in the workspace, in an ULU business, and ULU businesses are secondary cooperatives. They are member managed businesses. And so it would be out of kilter, out of balance, if some workers own equity in the company and other workers did not own equity in the company. We want to empower every worker to actually think as a boss, think as an owner, think as a responsible agent for what it is that we are creating and what it is that we're doing. And so the boss, if you could use that term, is the council, the workers' council. So the workers form a council of workers in that particular business. If it's big, it may be a council for a separate department. But what the council does, the workers' councils, the workers in tandem with each other, in unity with each other, they select from among them a leader. And that leader we would typically call a manager. And so while if you were looking from the outside, and you saw a person who was designated as a manager, you would say that that's the boss. But in our scenario, in our situation, it's simply not a boss. It's just someone who maybe temporarily, maybe permanently, but at the will of the workers is in a position of leadership. And so the boss is the spirit, the culture, the attitude of the combined workforce. And we know that in that kind of environment, especially when you have cross training, and you have workers who can do multiple things and who are conscious of everything that happens in the business, because they are keenly concerned about the success of the business. It's their job, it's their livelihood. But in addition to that concern, they also know that when the business matures and comes into profit, they also will get a bonus at that business. And also, the worker in ULU, because he's an owner, because he's a stakeholder, because he has 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 shares or units of ownership, they also involve themselves and qualify for profit sharing. So
Yeah.
the worker in ULU is king or queen. In addition to a salary, a fair wage, the worker, once the business matures and begins to create a surplus, the worker gets a bonus, and then also profit sharing from the overall success of the business. Now, the profit sharing does not come from the business that a worker works in. The profit sharing comes from the overall success of ULU globally. So the business that you work in may not be profitable yet. But if ULU overall is profitable, you still get a share of the profits.
That's very important too. Very
Yeah.
important.
And so the other thing is that where possible, if there ends up being a business or an installation that for whatever reason does not work, and we have to cut back or shut down, we will make every effort to continue to engage the workforce, and where possible, they can be transferred to another location, but they're still a member, they're still an owner, and hopefully there will still be a worker as
And that may be
well.
a good change for some people, because in some environments, they might want to build computer parts. Other person might want to be a banker, or they might want to do something
Right.
for 5 years and
Right.
switch up. So
Right.
that's very important. So the gist of it is, which is and thanks for that answer. The gist of it is, not only are you're responsible, you're your own boss. You're responsible for, if you work hard and do what you're supposed to do, right? You also
Yeah.
you get compensated for it. You get more money.
Yeah,
Right.
you get compensated 3 ways: a salary, a
Right.
bonus,
So,
and profit sharing.
and that's the way it should be. I mean, that's the whole henceforth the
And the reason
profit.
you can do that vis-a-vis how we normally look at business in the ULU model, there is no upper management, middle management, owners, major stockholders
Very good.
taking 51 or greater percentage of the profits and hoarding them for themselves.
Very good.
That element is removed. So when we take care of all of our expenses, including charity, and then what's left in a typical situation is pocketed by an individual or a small group of individuals. I worked in one business. I managed a business for the majority partner. But before we came to being partners in that business, and this was a business that did not employ more than 10 people at any time. This person was able to pocket $15,000-$20,000 a month from the success of the business. I also worked as a technical writer for another business out of North Carolina. And this business was a very small business in terms of staff. At no point more than, again, 10 or 15 people. And I know for certain there were some months when the owner pocketed over $250,000 in a month. Now,
so real quick about Hekima, I guess my question is, how much did the average employee make? If he made 250 grand, a $250,000 in 1 month, how much did the average
minimum wage?
Are you serious?
Now some of the employees were family members, okay, so they benefited more. But in typical business, it's not your business what the owner makes. The only business you got is what, whether you're gonna get $9 an hour, $10 an hour, $12 an hour, whatever the market bears, that's all the worker gets. There's no profit sharing. So it's not your business how much the owner takes home.
Yeah, and that's fine. So you're telling me in this particular scenario, I think it's in North Carolina. So let's say if the average person made, let's say a base rate of 15, let's say 2,500, let's say $3,000 per month.
Okay.
The owner made 250 grand in 1 month.
Yeah. And but that's fair based on that's based on the capitalist model.
Okay. All right. In that market. Okay. All right.
When you have Wall Street investors making, several $1 million.
Yeah.
In some cases, a month. Certainly. In a year, and that's appropriate because that model is based on a model of maximum greed. In other words, it's a positive value to be greedy and to hoard. That's a virtue based on that model.
Yeah, I mean, all those stories you read back in 08, 07, 09 when the market crashed.
Yeah.
A lot of those CEOs of those companies, Wall Street, were getting $37 million bonuses, and they literally ran the economy to the ground. And they still not fully recovered. But
now,
like I said, the greed mindset is a part of their culture.
Right,
so.
Right. But think of that same business that produced that excess, but instead of upper management, whatever the titles would be, the owners, taking away that was distributed to more equitably to the workers and to the co-op members who are also owners. There's a lot of fat that can be redistributed in a much fairer way so that the communities in which we live become enriched, because it's not all flying out of the community. It stays in the community and is distributed in a much fairer way. And so, again, you mentioned it earlier, ULU is a for-profit business enterprise. And to the extent that we can run our businesses effectively, efficiently, and in fact, do create a profit, then the community benefits from that excess capital. It typically now goes to the Asian community, to the Jewish community, to the community on the other side of the tracks. It doesn't stay in our community.
And in the future, Baba Hekima, we're going to do a whole segment on women in the hair care industry, because we got literally billions of dollars going out of the community. It's not being accounted for. So especially with Black women, some of the most, some of the most intelligent, as far as like business savvy people on the face of the planet. So,
but then our brothers are wearing those $200 and $300 shoes too now.
Yeah, like you said, we have when it comes to economics, we have so much to go over. But we're going to go on to the next question. But I'm so glad you brought up that point to where is that those $37 million bonuses for someone who ran a company to the ground, that money, like you said, if that money is distributed to whereas we have workers, the pyramid is kind of reversed, so to speak, and that money is going to the average worker or people who are, put in the hard work every day, it would change the mindset of our people, right? Once you see, you get a bonus for 25, 30, 40, 50,000, maybe even more, that would spread the wealth around, but that would change our mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, almost come like overnight, but on to the next question though. This will be the last one. We kind of wrap up from here because I know you have another meeting, so I don't want to hold you up. I'll say, okay. One moment here. All right. There we go, Baba Hekima. In a regular job at a corporation, if a business slows down and you are fired, what happens when business is when the business slows down in the cooperation?
Yeah,
in the co-op, so to speak.
We touched a little bit on it earlier. See, in a typical situation, you're working for someone else. It's their business, and you're contracted to supply labor, but it's their business. And so the decision to lay people off, to even in some cases diminish the wage scale in a crunch, in a co-op, and in the ULU model, that's our business. And the people who work in them are us. It's our business. And so the decision that a owner would make in a capitalist venture is different than a group of owners would make, where they own the business collectively. They are, in many cases, the workers, or their children are the workers, their wife or their husband is the worker. Shares are owned by their church, by their lodge, by their sorority, by people that live in their neighborhood. So the consideration is totally different. It's a group mindset as opposed to an individual mindset. Where possible, we would keep the businesses alive, because the main things are the jobs and the impact that business will have on the local community. There are going to be scenarios where some of our businesses are not profitable. They may be marginal. They're not losing a lot of money, but it may be valuable to keep that business in place, even if it's not making a surplus, because it supports X number of jobs. It supports X number of contracts and relationships with other businesses. It supports our psyche or our mindset in terms of the community knowing that here's a business or here's an operation that is owned by us. And
that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Very good point. It's your psyche. That's a very good point.
Exactly. And so not in every scenario is it going to be appropriate to shut down a business just because it's not making mad returns. But in a capitalist model, if a certain level of profits are not realized, and sometimes that level of profit for you and I, when we looked at it, we would be happy with that. But
yes,
in a typical business enterprise, if the shareholders and the major stockholders are not making money at a certain level, then they kill the business.
Yes.
Just in the news yesterday, we see that several hundred Macy's stores are closing, several hundred Sears stores are closing. I would imagine that many of them are profitable, but they're not profitable at the level that they want and that they have planned for. So the worker in the ULU business concept is not just a hired laborer. That's us. I mean, we are the workers in many cases.
Bobby Hekima, real quick, that's an excellent point you make just now, because as you study this stuff and you read it, like I said, real big on research. If a corporation makes, let's say, a 7% profit, let's say last year or a certain quarter, they don't count that going into the next year or next fiscal year. They don't count that like people think you do. It's like the very next time, if they make the 7%, right, or they make 6%, which is still a profit to them, they're still losing money, right? So 7%, 8%, 10%, in their mind, it's a failure. And like you said, it could be, for us, that might be a great, it might be a great deal to where we have steady growth. But that's something I think in the future we need to do a show on, because it sounds very deceiving, the economics, that numbers they put out. That's another thing I want to go off into in this show, to where they put out a lot of false information, to make it seem as if these companies are in dire straits. But it's all about that razor thin, profit margin. So they don't really care, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's something, something very important to think about in the future. We can almost do a whole entire show about that.
I see.
Yeah. So, and I did want to, as we wrap up here, I have I just want to make the statement. And you and we spoke on it briefly, and I just thought it was I don't know. I think it's just kind of amazing. To whereas. For me, I want everyone to see this so we can have a better idea of what we're dealing with. Like I was telling my friend, their apartments, in New York, in Park Avenue, they're 3-bedroom apartments, 2 bath, they go for $30 million, right? Who's buying these? Who can afford this?
Yeah.
Right? And you look at the stat right here. I don't know if you can see the screen here, but I'm going to read this to you because it's kind of probably maybe small on your screen. But the richest 62 people, I mean, this number is not even, I'd have to look this up twice just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. The richest 62 people, right, in the world, like the multi-billionaires, are as wealthy as half of the world's population. So 62 people have more money and wealth than 3.5 billion people.
Yeah.
Are we living in like some sort of like alternate reality? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
3.5 billion people?
Yeah. And people will justify that. They'll say that those 60,
who will justify these economists who are employed by these 62 people. That's about it.
But other people will justify it too. They will say that those 62 people created an opportunity for.
I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
To have jobs, So it's crazy.
Well, to me, I can fit 62 people in my house. That's beyond crazy. and like you said, see, the thing is, you're right. You're dead right. They will justify it because they control the media. They control really this whole, not only the police system, they control economics. Right. That's one reason why I'm enjoying, UsLiftingUs. Because, I mean, ultimately, we can complain, we can talk about this, that, or whatever, but
right.
Like you and I spoke we spoke early before the session. We had to focus on building. Exactly. Right. So the people listening to this podcast, right? You know what it's time to do. UsLiftingUs.com.
That's right.
I mean, like I said, this stat is just.
That's right.
Anybody who can look at this right with any kind of rational mind and not think we kind of totally went off the deep end.
Yeah. Well, bro Troy, that what you have listed up here now, when we start businesses and when we think entrepreneurially and we support Black businesses, it's in the context of those kinds of skewed numbers, those kinds of relationships, the 1% or the 1/2 of the 1%. So, and we say in ULU, and we say that we take the strong position that entrepreneurship and business ownership alone will never equal power for us. And the reason for that is what you just put up. That's the mindset and the environment in which we typically do business. And it doesn't matter if you have 10 Oprahs, 50 Tyler Perrys,
Yes.
or 100 Bob Johnsons, or 500 Magic Johnsons, in the way the game is being played now, you still got those 62 people out earning half of the planet,
And
because
that's what our people need to
that's the
understand.
system.
Excellent point. That's what our people need to understand in context.
Right. So what ULU is suggesting is that there is a different way of people taking care of their basic needs, a different economic model that's possible. That, of course, this predatory capitalist model has not been around all that long. It's in terms of human history, is a really a fairly new phenomenon. And so what ULU was saying is that there is another way. We're encouraging brothers and sisters to be courageous enough to think of an alternative, to think of there being another paradigm, not just the one you showed.
A different way of thinking. Yes.
Different way of thinking. And that the goal or the objective and the responsibility now is to grow that new paradigm. It's not going to happen overnight, but it doesn't need to take 50 years. We can grow this new paradigm in 15, 20 years.
Okay, you're back now. Okay.
To where Africa is a major player on the planet, and we're strong enough, sophisticated enough, entrenched enough in who we are and who we have been, so that we will not be overrun by any economic bloc or economic force on the planet. Now, we're still going to have to be on the planet with other economies, other forces. But at this point, the European has been able to run wild and completely dominate the global economy. That day is quickly coming to an end, and there's going to be some consolidation and some things to happen that may allow that force to continue for some time. But as Africans and other people develop new models that don't just default back into that system and process, but can stand alone and grow on its own foundation, own footing, then slowly but surely, and then at a point very rapidly. See, initially, think of a rocket ship that takes off from Cape Canaveral. When that ship is initially ignited, when the rockets first ignite, you see all of this smoke, all of this fire, all of this noise, and the rocket ship is standing still. It didn't move yet. The inertia is not there. The force to counter the weight of the spaceship is not there. But then you begin to see it gradually move. And as it gains speed, it gains a greater and greater and greater speed. And once you got it in motion and lifted off that platform, it takes less and less energy to keep it moving. So as we're at a point now where we have ignited the rocket ship, so to speak, ULU. And yes, there's smoke and fire, and for some people, they don't see very much movement. But in this year, when ULU opens 3 or 4, 5 or 6 businesses, 10 businesses, and next year we open, I'm not saying we're going to open 10 businesses this year. We're going to open more than one business this year. But let's say in 4 or 5 years, people around the country and around the world know that ULU owns 50, 100, 200 businesses. In another 2 or 3 years, we own 500, 600, 1,000 businesses. And so that's that rocket ship that when you first heard about it in this stage, it was sitting on the platform and you didn't sense any movement. But later on, when you look at it, you see it as a high-flying, fast-moving projectile. And of course, the goal is economic empowerment for our people. And I'll give you, in closing now, I want to give you a definition for victory. Because if what we are doing in every sphere is not to have victory for our people, then I question why we're doing it. And so our definition of victory is that point at which we are able to ensure the safety and welfare of our people. When we're able to ensure the safety and welfare of our people. And you cannot get there without a strong, viable, energetic economic base.
Yes.
And that's where ULU is in the trenches right now, attracting brothers and sisters from around the world and having us join together in building this model. Now, we're learning in the process. You know, this has never been done quite this way. And so none of us are experts. We may be good in this area and that area, but we're learning from each other. We're learning from other people in the world who have similar models. And, but our intent is pure. Our intent is to develop, perfect, grow an economy, not just businesses, but an economy that that we control and that supports and sustains us, and that will be in place for future generations, for our children and our grandchildren.
Very good, very good. And, you know, and Baba Hekima, you know, the caveat to a lot of that is this: what a lot of folks don't realize is, any economist worth their salt will tell you this: the business model for capitalism is failing. Capitalism across the globe is failing, and they know it. They're trying to put band-aids on it. You know, they're trying to do whatever they can. You know, peer-to-peer networks are setting up. You know, we got Bitcoin. A lot of stuff is changing right now. Right. So it's not just, like you said, the timing right now it could not be better, because not only are we're on the rise, we're trying to change our paradigm, our way of thinking when it comes to, you know, economics and us doing business with one another. The other economic system, the main one right now, is failing right now. So, like I said, we're in a very good position. We've got to, of course, take advantage of it.
Exactly.
So I did want to, you know, go ahead and wrap up here. I know you got to rock and roll, but I guess I want to try and do this thing more consistent, like a time frame. And, you know, one of the things probably my very next one, I'm trying to get all the major ones out of the way initially, but a lot of folks have a problem with just fear, the fear of just even getting started, you know, what economics are, or just the fear of just thinking differently. You're not going into work for someone else and just have this old slave mentality, right?
Yeah.
I really want to do a show about that. How's your schedule looking? I know we're live on air, but how's your schedule looking for, let's say, 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday?
No, we've got at that exact, as a matter of fact, at that exact same time, we're going to be on a call with our brothers and sisters in the UK.
Oh, you told me about that. Yeah.
I think it's about that same time. Yeah, but
send me the link to that.
We can work out a time.
Okay, we'll work out a time. And what I want to do in the future, I want to post it to where the people know 1, 2, 3 days ahead of time. Let's say we do it Sunday at 5, right? Or let's say, you know, Saturday or whatever, just, you know, whatever time we do, the people, they'll get an email saying, hey, look, you know, this is when the show will begin, so to speak.
Okay, I'm sure we'll work it out. It's like You know, there's a saying that their success is always under construction.
That's 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 a very good saying. Very good saying. Okay. Well, thanks, Bob Hekima. And like I said to everyone, thank you guys for checking us out. And we're going to keep pushing everything forward. Keep bringing you, the latest and the best information we can. And please check out UsLiftingUs.com. And please, you're more than welcome to join us. If you have any questions, send us, post it in a chat on YouTube. Any questions you want to ask us, and I'll present the questions to him and the rest of the members in ULU, so we can get back with you as soon as possible. Thank you guys, and talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thanks, Papa Hekima.
Mm-hmm.